Wake up.
This is a brand new episode of Wake Up Right.
Wake up.
With your workout buddies, April and sometimes Yenna. Your hit podcast. Your much needed hit of encouragement, empowerment, and motivation to live and grow each day a little brighter.
Hey, beautiful people. Welcome to the Wake Up Right podcast, your hit podcast. I'm April Lauren, and I'm so excited about this video. I have followed Tattoo Barbie for literally years. She's amazing. Until I asked her to be on this podcast, I had no idea she suffered from binge eating, and she opened up to me on this podcast episode. She's one of those people you meet and you just are like instant friends. Like, I feel like she's a best friend. Like, it was really awesome. And I love that about the internet, because there's a few people like that I've met and I talk to almost every day from the internet. It's exciting. It's exciting to meet people, and I love Tattoo Barbie. She keeps her name under wraps, so I'm not going to put her on blast. But in this podcast episode, we talk about her eating disorder, how she overcame it with therapy and a nutritionist, and her marriage, life as a military wife, life as an American in Germany. We talk about her adventures. She's gone to Switzerland. She got wedding photos taken in Egypt. Let's see, she just went to Greece. She actually, after the podcast, took some pretty amazing trips and has been posting the most awesome photos on her Instagram. So, without further ado, let's just get into today's podcast. I'm so excited.
Now, it's time for the main event of today's hit episode. Let's welcome our special guest.
What branch is your husband in? Is he Army?
Yeah, he's his Army. Is your husband Army as well?
Uh-huh.
Okay, yeah.
Well, that's why, like, I figured Fort, or were y'all at Fort Polk before Fort, I can't talk, before Fort, or
So our first duty station was Fort Campbell in Kentucky. Okay. And then we went to Fort Irwin, and then we came to Germany.
Okay. Because I don't know why, but I had made up in my mind at some point that you guys also, and I think maybe it was Campbell, but I know Campbell's in like Kentucky, like Nashville kind of, but Fort Polk. Because I found you when my husband was in the reserves and he was wanting to go active duty, and that's when I was like, I started looking at, like, this is like 2016 or something.
Yeah,
it's a long time ago, so it might not have been 2016 when I found you, but that's like when I started like looking for stuff. Mm-hmm. I think one of your first videos I watched was like the types of Army.
Yeah, that video, like, it makes me cringe because, like, I just was like very out there. Like, when my channel started, I was like, whatever, I don't care. Nobody's gonna watch this anyways. Like, I didn't think people would actually watch it, and then that's when, like, I kind of got some followers or whatever, and I watch it now and I'm like, oh gosh, like, I really went there, and my acting is horrible, but it's okay. It's there. It's a memory, you know?
I love it. That's awesome. Well, I mean, I went back and watched that video not too long ago, and I'm like, it's pretty old. Like, that video, I don't remember what year it was, like 2017 or something, that you made that video. Because I just rewatched. My husband watched it because he's like, "Who are you interviewing?" And then he's like went through and watched like several of your videos, and he's like, "Well, her husband's definitely in the Army." But I told him I make things up. And this, if you need me to like redact this, I will. Are y'all going to Florida from Germany?
Yeah.
Okay.
We are. So we're originally from Florida, but we're going like closer to the Orlando area. So we're like 5 hours from our hometown, which it's like, when I say I'm going to Florida, all the people that, you know, are used to me from Florida are like, oh, you're coming home. I'm like, no. I'm not coming home. I'm going to still be far away from home. But yeah, he's going recruiting. So we're not going to be by any military base. So it's going to be weird not being by a military base, because that's usually how like I get my clientele. I just post on an Army Wife Facebook page and then I get clients. This time around, there's no Army base or military base. So I'm just kind of on my own. So it's going to be a little bit different.
Yeah, I bet you could get some Disney clientele. Like, I don't know how you feel about that, but
I
bet you could brand yourself that way.
Yeah, I mean, I love Disney, but like here, I'm kind of known as like the flower girl, like kind of like a professional tattoo permanent florist, because like I do a lot of like flower bouquets and like a lot of people come to me for flower tattoos. So I wonder if that's going to like switch when I move, because it's going to be different. Like, I don't know if I'm going to open my own studio or exactly what the plan is. It's just going to depend on like the actual area we end up living in, because we don't want to be too close to Orlando because it's way more expensive, but we don't want to be too far from actually where he's going to be recruiting. So we're trying to figure that out, but it's kind of hard to look at houses right now. So
yeah. And the market's just freaking crazy. The market is just a nightmare, like ridiculousness to try and get into a house, whether you're renting or buying. It's weird. I thought the pandemic stuff would have the opposite effect, to be honest, with so many people like losing jobs and like things like that. I thought that we would have like the opposite. There would be too many homes available, and as opposed to homes being unaffordable because they've like quadrupled in price.
Yep, it's not fun. I mean, moving in general is just not fun, but internationally moving is just a whole nother situation, and it's just a lot.
I can't imagine. I'm glad though that you say that, like, that you require your space and like he needs his, because I feel like we have a pretty decent sized house. And it's because of those same reasons. But I feel like people look at us and they're like, well, y'all don't have kids. And I'm like, but we have 2 dogs.
Yeah.
Like
we need your animals are your kids. Like, you need your own personal space. Like, I don't know. That's just kind of like a stigma anyways with like Army wives. Like, you gotta have a whole football team of kids, or at least one kid, or oh my God, what's wrong with you? So yeah. We're not gonna have kids, so I'm going to enjoy, I want a big house regardless. So Thor's going to have all the space he wants. And then collector stuff. So those are my babies. So they need their own space. So
I love it. Well, let's transition, if you will. What's it like living in Europe? What do you like about it? Hate about it?
I mean, so the pandemic really kind of changed my experience. I feel like when we first moved here, we had like a full year of like, we were traveling nonstop. We were going from country to country. I was like, I love it. And I was getting ready to try to like open my tattoo shop. So it was a lot going on, and I loved it. Like, here, things are just like a really good hub for international travel. So you're not spending a lot of money like you were, like if you were in the States and you wanted to fly, to London or wherever, you'd be spending so much money, plus the flight time's so long. Here, you can take a train and, go to sleep, wake up, and you're where you need to be. And it was a very cheap ride, or you could just drive to Austria, like a few hours away. So I love living in Germany. I will say it's a culture shock in the fact of they're just different people. Like, there's not a lot of customer service like what we're used to in the States. I would say like we're kind of babied a little bit in the US. Like, we're used to always getting our way no matter what. There's not a lot of niceties here. It's kind of straight to the point, They just want you in, they want you out, and that's pretty much it. So it's just different, like kind of adjusting to their culture, because at the end of the day, it's like kind of a privilege to be able to be in their country, so you just have to learn kind of their ways and everything. But it's just weird because there's no AC here. It's summertime. It's very hot. So So like that kind of sucks. And we tried to buy like one of the AC units, and with our like window sizes, you have to have like a hose that sticks out of it, and then it takes the hot air and turns it into cold air with the tube. But with our window size, we can't do it. So it almost worked like a heater. And I was like, oh no, this isn't going to work. So we bought like, I want to say like 12 fans. So I have fans literally everywhere. So, I mean, it's just little things, like the roads are really small here. It's really weird. Like you'll think it's a one way and there's a car coming and you'll have to kind of like pull over a little bit. And so it's definitely different, but I love everything about it here. Like, it's just like going to a cafe or a bistro and, you know, sitting down, people watching, and you have like beautiful architecture all around you. Things are way cheaper. Like you can get like a pretzel for like 50 cents, you know? So, I mean, it's so different. I personally, if it was up to me, I wouldn't want to move back to America, but you know, I can't stay here forever. I mean, if I'm old and I don't have anything going on, I wouldn't mind like moving to Spain or, you know, somewhere else in Europe, just because I love it so much. So it's definitely a different experience, because, you know, it's going to be like a reverse culture shock when I come back to the States, because I'll be able to read a menu. Like I'll be able to have like ice, because they don't really put ice in your drinks here, which I thought was really odd. So I was like, I love chewing on ice. I was like, oh, I'm really excited to just go to a restaurant and have ice in my drink. So it's like just the little things. But I mean, all in all, I really love it here, and I like working here. So I'm just sad to leave.
Like, I don't know too much, because I've never traveled outside of the United States, unless you count Canada. And that's because we lived in like Washington State when I was a kid. So we would like ride the ferry to Canada. So it's hard for me to really conceptualize how different other countries actually are. My closest friend from where we lived before, she's from Finland. And so she's like, oh, you don't understand, but let me tell you. And what she describes, it sounds wonderful. It just sounds wonderful, especially because she's from Finland. So kind of the same thing, like hopping around to different places. It's not really that big of a deal. Like she went to college in another country, but it was like, I think it was like a 2 hours away to like go to this other, maybe it was longer than that. Maybe I'm oversimplifying, but definitely jealous of your ability to travel when you were able to travel before everything kind of got locked down. And you guys went and got your wedding photos taken in Egypt. They're amazing photos. So my husband and I have terrible wedding photos, and I had never really thought about doing something like that, like getting professional photos done later. How did you kind of come up with the idea? How did you get like a photographer? Like what like was going, like, how did that come to be?
So originally, me and my husband did a courthouse wedding. So it wasn't anything fancy. I'm not super close to my family, so I never had it really in my head. Like, you know, some women, they have their dream wedding since like they were really young. Like I just need all the fireworks. I never really had that. I was like, I love you. Your family's here. I got my dress from Ross. Like, I just was like, okay, this is fine. You know, we'll do something big later. It's not a big deal. We'll get some cool pictures. So time had went on. And when we found out we were coming to Germany, I was like, we're going to get our wedding photos taken in Paris. That was the original plan. Because I was like, oh, Paris is just so beautiful, you know, that's just the dream thing. So before we moved here, I actually went to David's Bridal with like my friends and, you know, his family, tried on beautiful wedding dresses. And I was like, okay, I think I got an idea of what I want. Like, it's going to happen in Paris, right? So we moved to Germany, and I surprised my niece with a trip to Disneyland Paris. And my husband couldn't go at the time because, you know, military life and work or whatever. So I took her to Paris, and I was like, this is not romantical like I thought it was going to be. Like, it was nice, but you know, they romanticize it so much in movies and all this stuff. And I was just like, I don't want my wedding photos here. So I was like, what am I going to do? So in my mind, I'm like, my husband's one bucket list place was Egypt. That's always been his thing. So I was like, let me look how long the flight is. Like, if it's even possible, I don't know. So I looked and it was only a 3-hour flight from Germany. I was like, oh, this could actually like be a thing, you know? And I don't think it was 6 hours. It was like 3 to 6 hours. It wasn't like too crazy, but so I went behind his back and I tried to like talk to like his superiors. I'm like, is there any way for me to surprise him with this trip? Because I know with the military, like there's all these clearances and like all this stuff that you have to do. And they're like, well, we can approve his leave no matter what. And he was like, why do you want to, you know, take him there? I'm like, this is his one bucket list place. And I had like everything saved because he was like, well, you need a visa beforehand. I'm like, actually, you get the visa at the airport. Like I did so much research so that way, if I was asked the questions, I knew what I was talking about. Yeah. So it got to the point where he was going to have to fill out like military forms to get approval to go to Egypt. And I didn't have his password. And military computers, you can't really like mess up the passwords because then you'll get locked out and he can be in trouble. Yeah. So you have to get a shot, and it's been a while. I can't remember what it was. It might have been for yellow fever or something. I had to get some type of shot, and it kind of made me sick. And my husband's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "It's fine. I just had to get a shot for, my tattoo license, and it's fine. Like it's over." And then it came out. I was like, "Look, I'm trying to surprise you. You have to get this shot on this day." He's like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "We're going to Egypt." I was like, "You just need to fill out this paperwork online to get approval." Because I don't remember the actual name of the paperwork, but basically it's like the embassy over there, the US embassy has to approve that he's there through the military. It's a whole thing. So I was like, you need to fill out this form. So I filled out the form, and we didn't get approval to go till 12 hours before our trip.
Wow.
And I was so stressed, and I just kind of went on Instagram as far as like finding a photographer and all that. I went on Instagram and I just, was looking through people, and I found this one woman and I loved her work. So I wrote her on WhatsApp, and she was really sweet. She messaged, she's like, "These are good hotels. This is how much it would cost. We can go here." And I was like, well, like, is there someone I can hire to like, film? Because I was like, I want to do a YouTube video, I was like, hold my veil and all that stuff. And she's like, yeah. And it was only $400 US. And I got like 150 photos, and I was only supposed to get 35.
Wow.
It was a whole thing. So Egypt's a little different though, because once you start internationally traveling, it's pretty easy to plan things. Like it's scary if you've never done it before, but like once you kind of get the hang of it, it's super easy to just kind of wing it. You go, get lost, have fun. In Egypt, you can't really do that. You really need like a tour guide and stuff like that. So we basically everything was booked so that we had a driver and someone that spoke the language throughout our whole trip. And the pictures came out great, but I don't know if you saw the video that I posted about my veil and everything got taken at the pyramids.
No. Well, I remember watching the video, but I watched that video when you put it up. So it was like almost 2 years ago, maybe. Yeah. So it's been a long time to refresh my memory and the people listening.
Well, so I didn't have like an actual wedding dress. It was like a boho white dress. It was just something off of Amazon, but I did have a long veil that was like 12 feet. And so I had like all these crystals in my hair. I had a bouquet. We show up to the pyramid and they're like, you can't wear that. That's a wedding dress. And I guess for like religious reasons or whatever, they felt it was disrespectful for me to take like wedding photos in front of their pyramids or something. It was a very heated discussion between the photographer and the people that work there. And so I cried. I was like, I traveled like halfway across the world. I spent so much money. I'm like, this is not a wedding dress. So after they argued for about half an hour, they confiscated everything. Like the only thing I was able to have was my dress. And
Wow.
so I was like, my pictures are ruined. Like these aren't going to look like wedding photos. It's going to look like I'm just hanging out with my husband in Egypt. Like that's it's kind of not a bad problem to have, but I had it built up in my mind of what I wanted. So she was sweet and she knew the people that work around the pyramids, and I didn't know what was going on, but she brought over one of the guys that was selling scarves, and she's like, pick a scarf. He's going to wrap it around your head like a veil. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, she's like, you're going to be a real Egyptian bride. And she tied it, or the guy tied it around my head to where it was like kind of around, and then I had a veil, and then they gave my husband one too. So that wasn't planned in the photos at all. Like it looked really good, and now I have a story for it, but it was very stressful at the time because it's not what I had in mind.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it was experience in itself. Like it was very, very stressful because we didn't know we were going to last minute, but it happened right before the pandemic. So we got it in, and I was very, very grateful for that. So it was the trip of a lifetime. You need to get your passport. You and your husband need to go because that's like, it's definitely like way better than what they put on TV and like the History Channel and all that stuff. Like it's just something you have to see in person.
I definitely want to go. I feel like my husband has hesitations about Egypt specifically, but I'm like, I want to go. And then I remember like your video came up and I'm like, see, I want to go. Like,
it is possible. Yes, it is possible. It is a pain in the butt, but hey, it is so worth it. Like there's different times where like the military just checks on countries and they're like, okay, it's safe to go there. If you got the green light that it's safe, just start packing and get things ready and go with it.
I love it. And so recently you looks, I don't think you haven't done a video on it or anything, but you went to Greece, right? Recently.
Yeah, I have 2 videos that hopefully I'll have time to come out. I've been working nonstop since I've been able to reopen my tattoo shop. So I have like had 0 time to actually film videos and, put anything out. But yeah, we went to Switzerland, and then I tattooed for like 4 days, and then we went right to Greece, and both trips were amazing. Greece was like my favorite. That was like one of my big bucket list things. And me and my husband were both like, this really does look like better than it does on Instagram. Because you know how some places you're like, doesn't really look like that. That's editing or, it's not really that beautiful. No, like the vibe there, just everything. It was like one of the most relaxing trips that we've ever been on.
I loved your photos from that. The ones that you had done where you're wearing the black dress. I'm just like, it's like, I mean, that sounds dumb. I'm like, it's like art. I mean, photography is art, but I just love, I love y'all's wedding photos. I love photography, period. And I love your photos. I never would have thought to do anything like that. I just feel like you're so creative. And that's one of the things that I admire about you is that you are just a super creative person. Like I am envious. That probably sounds weird hearing people be like, you're so creative. I'm so envious, but it just is like, I feel like you're just one of the coolest people, which sounds really like, I hate the words that are coming out of my mouth, but
it's fine. It makes me feel so good inside. Cause I literally feel like in real life, like I'm very awkward. I like, especially in like social situations in like real life, it takes like, I don't have a big circle. Like if you look at my Instagram, you kind of think like, oh, she's a very people person. She's super out there and super outgoing. I love photos because those are like memories and like my, when people buy magnets, I kind of collect pictures, of myself. Yeah. And I'm like the complete opposite of my husband. My husband's like super good with people and super out there and everything. And I'm just like, oh, I don't know. Like, do I say these words? Do they come off, like the right way? Like I overthink everything. I'm like in bed thinking about something I said like 3 years ago and the person totally forgot about it. And I'm just like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. That's what they probably think of me or whatever. So no, I mean, any compliments you give me, it means a lot because I don't see myself like that. I'm just like, whatever. I'm just normal, weird, just awkward.
I think weird would be I think weird in a different way, maybe. I think a lot of that's interesting because I feel the same way about myself. And I 100%, I don't know if it's like a women thing. I don't think it is. Maybe it's just a personality type thing where you're like literally thinking, I'll still cringe. Like I'll be like, I don't know, I'll be walking somewhere and the sidewalk will trigger some like memory from like, I don't know, high school. And I'm like, why did you do that? Like
exactly.
overanalyzing it. Like you could have done this instead. But I think it comes across that you are very artistic and like very confident in the way that you are. I don't know if you feel that, but that's how it always seems. It seems you're very authentically yourself. Maybe you're forcibly authentically yourself. But I love that about you. I think it's inspiring.
Well, thanks. I have a lot of insecurities. That's like my main thing. Like I'm very much, I would say, especially within the last few years, kind of came into my own and was just like, you know what, this is me. If people don't like it's fine. They don't have to like it, because my style is very like when I'm on vacation, I'm the person who like in my mind, I want to be like, I'll be the classy, bougie, whatever. But like on a normal day, I like really love goth, weird, dark kind of horror type of things. And I forget that maybe sometimes that's not really normal, especially like going on like a military base. For the most part, most people kind of look normal-ish or around the same, and I got, chokers and shoes with spikes on them and, pumpkin backpacks and stuff. So I guess to me, I've just always been a little different. So when people stare at me, I automatically am like, oh, is there something wrong with me or whatever? I would say more recently in the last year, I'm kind of like, that's fine. I'm fabulous. It's okay. Like I'm different. And that's completely fine if someone doesn't like it. But for so many years, I was just kind of like, ooh, stop looking at me. Like, why are you looking at me? Oh God, like I need to change my outfit. Or, I was very insecure about all of that stuff. So just recently, I'm just like, whatever. I like what I like, and I don't have to, because me and my husband are complete opposites. Like, we don't have to look exactly the same or whatever. I can just be myself, and a lot of people like it. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm making some people happy and making some people feel like they can dress the way they want to, So it's just been kind of a journey. This year, I would say I've done the most growth as a person to where I feel way more comfortable in my own skin, but it's been very much a give and take, like over like a lot of years of where like I can be myself. Ooh, I don't want to be myself. Ooh, why are these people staring at me? But it shouldn't matter. So it's been kind of a very struggle for me, like in the inside. But now I'm to a place where it's just like, I am what I am. I'm a beautiful black rose in a garden of colorful flowers, and it's okay.
Well, I like it. I like your style. I think you're very beautiful in a magnetic way, and that's probably why people. And then not only that, but you also, even if you weren't comfortable, have leaned into your, I don't want to say quirky, but like not mainstream way of dressing and living, but I think it's just beautiful. So it's magnet, and that's what draws me to your content. I do have to say, like your new channel trailer, I don't remember when it switched over, but when you're holding the Chucky dolls, it like gives me the creep, like not in a bad way. Like it doesn't give me the creeps. Like I'm like, ugh. It gives me the creeps. Like I'm like, I don't know if I can watch this. I know that's weird, but I love it. I mean, I think it's fantastic. It's so creative. How did you, like, why, how, and where are you?
Okay, so me and one of my friends, we went to this, just a town. Like the good thing about Germany is there's so many like beautiful like hidden places. Like like parks or just places where they have like a lot of flowers and stuff. So there was a place, I think you pronounce it Bayreuth, but it's spelled like Babe Ruth. So we were like, we're going to Babe Ruth, you know, it sounded super country. But they have like a bunch of gardens, and I literally, me and my friend, we had only hung out like maybe 3 times. And I was like, okay, I had my Chucky doll on my backpack, and I was like, do you get embarrassed easily? And she was like, no, why? And I turned around and I was like, is this okay? Because I want to take some cool pictures with Chucky. And she's like, yeah, it's fine. You know, I was like, okay. So I saw like, it was basically almost like a hallway where it was like arched with really cool greenery. And I was like, this could be a great intro for my channel if I like kind of frolic, you know. I was like, I've been wanting like a new intro. So we tried it a few times and it just worked. And that was before I had got like the nicer Chucky dolls, which I feel like I kind of want to redo my intro now that I have like a better Chucky doll. But yeah, I tried it once. I was like, I really like this. So it just kind of, it kind of stuck. So it was just fun and weird, you know?
Yeah, no, I love it. It's kind of fitting because it's so carefree. Like you're so carefree when you're skipping. I mean, obviously you weren't if you're like, well, I mean, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, but you're like skipping. So for those of you listening, her intro is so cool. She's in this like greenery, like kind of hall. She's outside. It's just very like serene and like beautiful where she's at. And she's skipping and she just looks so happy and like carefree. And then she's got this Chucky doll, and then the music, you have to go to her channel and watch her intro. It's so awesome. Like I said, it's very beautiful and very carefree and then disturbing.
Yeah, just a little mixture. I mean, it's very much me as a person. Like I'm very split. Like I love like beautiful, colorful, like really girly things, but I love like horror and goth too. So anytime I can incorporate both worlds, I'm all for it, because sometimes the darkness kind of takes over, you know? So
Yeah.
anytime I can incorporate, you know, the cutesy or the beautiful, I try to do that.
I love that too, thinking about that, what you just said with your photos from Greece, because you're wearing that beautiful black dress and even like just calling yourself like a black rose, like because you're in this like very pristine, like blue, whites, like very light colors. And then it's such a statement. I love that.
They had like every color dress, and my husband always like makes fun of me because I buy so much stuff in black, and like t-shirts are my thing, and I always buy black t-shirts. And so when the lady was like, what color dress do you want? And she was naming all these colors, and then she said black, and my husband just looked at me and like rolled his eyes. He knew I was about to say black, you know. I was like, black, please. Like, I don't even have to think about it, you know. It's like a colorful color to me in a sense, because I just feel the most comfortable in black. Like, I don't know, it goes with everything in my eyes. You know, I've tried to like wear like really bright, like pink. Pink looks great on my skin tone, but I'm just like, ugh. Like it just, like I feel like I'm not in my own skin with those type of colors, which is weird. It's just a color, but it makes a big difference to me anyways.
Well, it does. And those pictures, specifically the pictures I'm talking about, I don't think they would have been as impactful if you were wearing a different color. Like if you were wearing white, you would have just blended in. If you're wearing a color, I don't know. I feel like the photos are very uniquely you. I think that's one thing I really appreciate about what you do on your YouTube and on your Instagram is that parts of you, especially listening to you describe yourself, the parts of you, they're so visible in the art that you create or that you participate in creating, like those photographs, for instance, like being in the black. They're so beautiful, like they're captivating. And then it's also like, it's a contrast that fits so perfectly in the photos. I don't know. I love it to be all weird.
No, I'm telling you, it makes me feel good, because I'm always like worried, like, oh, I hope this picture's okay, you know, like, oh, I'm putting it out there for, you know, the world to see. So, I mean, that whole trip though, especially like Switzerland, was rejuvenating for some reason. Like I went up there and doing the hike and just seeing how beautiful it was. It's like, in a way, I kind of just left all the bad, negative energy that I had, like from, the lockdown and not being able to work for so long, and then just being so stressed about moving and everything. Like, I don't know. I just felt, because I've been doing a lot of like growth stuff recently, like I go into therapy, go into nutrition, like changing as a person, and I'm about to be 30 in a couple weeks. So it's like, I feel like it's like, they say when you turn 30 that like it's different. I kind of understand that now, because I just feel like now I'm who I'm supposed to be, if that makes any sense. Like, I feel like you do a lot of growth before you actually feel like you're the person you're supposed to be. And like, I finally feel like that, which is weird. It's kind of weird to say out loud, but I mean, it's kind of true. It's like something about those 2 trips just kind of brought me back to life in a weird way.
I love that. Before we talk about Switzerland, because I want to ask you a few questions, and even some things you just said, I'd like to dive in if you're comfortable. If you ever aren't comfortable, just let me know, and we'll redirect.
You're fine.
When I think that I don't think people hear it a lot from small business owners' perspective. How did the pandemic affect you, like with your business? And I know, like, I saw posts like during, like, if you want to support small businesses, you can do X, Y, and Z and things like that. If you could just share a little bit of your story with how that affected you.
I mean, I will say, so the first time the lockdown happened, it was only for 3 months, but it was very hard for me because that was close to the time where my grandma had passed, and my grandma was like my mother. So mentally, I was in a very, very bad spot. And I'm very fortunate to have a husband that has a great career, that I don't have to worry about working. But being a very artistic person, I feel like if I don't have an outlet to kind of give my art to people, it kind of kills my soul a little bit. So it wasn't, for me, it was never the money aspect, it was just like, don't forget about me as like a person or an artist, because being a tattoo artist, sometimes people can want to be friends with you or get close to you for the wrong reasons. Like, they want to be like, oh, let's be friends because they think they're going to get a discount on tattoos, or they're going to get free tattoos. Like, they just think it's cool to be around tattoo shops or tattoo artists. That's kind of just a weird thing that happens with people in general. So the first time the lockdown happened, I just kind of shut down, and I just was in my little bubble. And that's when I really got bad into like binge eating and eating my feelings and starting to gain weight. And I was just really hard on myself. And then when I reopened, I was like, okay, like this is going to be fine. I can kind of get my center back and feel like I'm doing something. And then the second lockdown happened. And this time it was 6 months. And I had painted like almost all the walls in my house with graffiti because I needed something to do. I was like, I just need to create something. I need to paint. I just need to let it out, because with tattooing, you get to talk to people. You're putting permanent art on their body. Like, it's just a really cool process for me in general. And so then, like, my channel, like YouTube wise, wasn't doing so good. So I kind of felt like, okay, my business is not open right now. My views are going down on my channel. And I just kind of felt like, and then my grandma passed away. So it was so many lows that were kind of hitting me at one time. And I was like, well, it's very hard. I don't know if you do this, where you kind of compare yourself to other YouTubers kind of in your genre, where you're like, well, I do things that are like just as cool. Like, why isn't anybody watching? Or, so I was very hard on myself in the fact that, like, I try to tell my customers, like, hey, if you want to support me, like, as an artist, because we have that relationship, watch a YouTube video. Even AdSense isn't really much, but it helps a little bit, plus mentally for me, if I get some more views, at least there's something I can look forward to. And it was just like nobody wanted anything from me, but like, hey, let me message you and can you tattoo me on the low? And in Germany, it's like a 5,000 euro fee if you get caught tattooing or like working, and like everything's closed. And I'm very by the book when it comes to business. So I'm just like, all these people are messaging me, like trying to basically ruin me and like want something from me. And I'm just like, hey, you know, you say you support me so much and you're going to support me and my art everywhere I go. And then when it came down to it, it was like crickets, you know. I was like, okay, so you guys only support me when you're getting something from me that you want. You don't really support me as a person all the way around. So it was hard for me to kind of deal with that because I had never dealt with that before. Like my channel was just a fun place. And then I'd look, and if I got like a good amount of views in my mind, I was like, okay, like life is good. People are watching me, you know? And then, you know, the algorithm sometimes isn't, you know, always as kind or whatever. So I was just really hard on myself. Like, what am I doing wrong? And I compared myself to so many other YouTubers like in the area that live here. And I'm like, well, I feel like mine is just as good as theirs. What's happening here? So it was just a lot of low for me. It never was like the money issue because, like I said, my husband takes care of me. I'm very fortunate to have that. I never started tattooing for just the money. It was, I like the process of I get to know someone and then my tattoo gets to go wherever they go. So if I tattooed you and you got to travel to places I never got to go, I feel like a part of me got to go with you. So I'm like putting bits of pieces of me on people so that they can, you know, explore and go. And I feel like a part of that, you know? So to me, I feel like other small businesses suffered a lot financially, you know? For me, it was just more of the mental thing because I was so focused on, okay, well, I don't have work to distract me. I was gaining a lot of weight. I was binge eating. I was just so miserable, depressed. And then my one outlet that was YouTube, I was getting like a lot of negative comments on certain videos and it just brought me down. So I kind of just stopped everything and everything just kind of went to a halt until I just woke up one day. I saw a YouTube video about a girl talking about like her binge eating and it just kind of resonated with me because some people don't realize that, you know, you don't have to be a certain weight to have binge eating issues. Like it's way deeper than that. And seeing this girl that looked very similar to me having those issues, I was like, I need help. So I made appointments with behavioral health, which in the military world is basically like a therapist, and nutrition. And I haven't talked about this on my channel because I'm worried about the reaction I would get. Like if it would be positive, because I feel like your channel is so positive and like all your like, of course, everybody gets like hate or whatever, but I just feel like you radiate positivity. And I feel like your community is very positive in supporting you and uplifting you. So like, I feel a little bit more safe here because my channel can be a little bit scary sometimes in the comments, just because my channel is all over the place. Like I have military wife followers, but then I have tattoo, you know, people, and then I have like the travel people. So it's a very mixed melting pot of different people. So I'm just kind of scared what the reaction would be because I just my big thing is I don't want people to think I'm perfect, but it's hard for me to let people that don't know me, like I'm flawed. I have a lot of stuff going on, but dealing with the behavioral health side and the nutrition changed like everything for me. And then the last like 6 months, I've kind of transformed and done a lot of growth because for me, a lot of trauma that happened to me as a kid contributed to how I deal with stress, how I deal with, you know, kind of wanting the acceptance from other people, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So dealing with all of that, now I feel like a load has been lifted off my shoulders and I can just be me and I can talk about things without like being a big baby and crying and, you know, being on the floor and all that stuff. Like I can talk about things now and it's not like a dirty little secret. Like it's okay to not be perfect and to have issues and all that other stuff.
Yeah. And I think as society as a whole is making it easier to open up about those things, which is great. I think it needs to be normalized. Like the idea of therapy needs to, I don't care who you are. Every single person in this world would benefit from therapy. I think like we all have issues. We all have, and they're varying degrees. And then there's lots of commonalities too, that like, because we don't talk about them, because we don't talk about like our anxiety, we don't talk about trauma. It feels very isolating. Like we're the only one. And I know like it's hard because when I hear about binge eating so much online, I feel like, especially the more overweight someone is, the more it's like something people do for comfort or something that people do. And this may be yours. I'm not taking away from this type of binge eating or anything. So it's like a comfort thing or like a boredom thing or like a just because thing. For me, if I get in that state, if I spiral to the point where I'm doing that, it's like a I hate you thing. It's the equivalent. I'm not saying it's the same as like it's self-harm. It's a self-harm thing for me when that happens. Like the mindset is very much like toxic and like, you know, I might be eating Oreos, but like, which is why I just don't, Oreos are not allowed in our house, but it's like, I hate you and you're pathetic. And like, just all of this like terrible stuff that I'm saying to myself with like and then it's like, I've always accompanied when that happens with like some sort of depressive state. And then I just stay there. I stay like in that depressive state until one day it's like the fog lifts and then I've gained a bunch of weight and I'm like, what in the actual, you know, like what am I going to do? So it's so hard. And then the fact that so many people, whether they're small business owners or not, probably experienced what you experienced with the pandemic, where you kind of take the creative outlet or just the outlet in general, and then it's just you and yourself. And that's rough. It's rough, but it's so awesome that you did get therapy through behavioral health and nutrition counseling. And there's so much, I feel like there's so much that I wanted to respond to that you said. And it's just kind of like it's all right there.
Yeah.
But it's a lot. Have you thought about creating a second channel as far as YouTube is concerned? Like,
it's very hard for me because like my channel now is so weird. Like the subscribers go up slowly. Like they're always continually slowly growing every once in a while, but the views have like kind of evened out. Like some videos do great. It's like a mind thing for me. So I'm like, if I start a new channel and it doesn't do good, like at all, it's going to like hurt my soul some because I'm just like, I do have that kind of need for some reason to like the approval of other people. Like, please watch this, you know? And then when I don't get what I feel like I deserve, like I put so much work into a video, then it just kind of makes me very, very sad. And I don't want to get to that point again. That's why I've kind of stepped back from YouTube a little bit, just because I need to find that place again where I'm just doing the video just because I want to do it. If it gets views, it does. If it doesn't, then that's fine too. But for some reason, I just kind of hung up on the number game right now, where I'm just like refreshing my, you know, YouTube creator app. And I'm like, okay, is there any more views? Are people watching? You know, it's just, it hurts me when I do creatively spend so much time. And then one video, it's like, it skyrockets. And I'm like, okay, like we're getting somewhere. And then I do something else and it's like 200-300 views. And for some people, that's still great. But for me to kind of be on a high for a long time where my videos were doing good. I mean, at least 1,000 views, at least per video. And then it kind of just going down, and people try to give me feedback, and it's hard because I feel like technically I would need like 3 channels, like my horror, my army wife stuff, and my traveling stuff. But then that gets just so much anxiety for me. So I don't know where to go from here, because seeing so many people be so good at it, and I've put my all into it, and then not getting back what I think I kind of deserve, just kind of messes with me. Like, I don't really know where to go from here until like, when do I stop?
I think, let me pull up your channel. The only reason I asked about the second channel is because I feel like the algorithm or whatever it is in YouTube, and I like, it's like this mythical creature. But I feel like it sometimes suppresses stuff, and you have to have like a very specific video for it to stop doing that. Cause I feel like that just kind of happened with my channel to a degree, which is crazy because I feel like it's gotten to, well, I don't know how to talk about it. I didn't expect when I started posting videos last July, I was kind of where you were, like, I love to work. Like, I work, like, I love working, and I spend all of my time pretty much working. And then when I was furloughed and then laid off, like, that was taken, and I didn't do anything wrong, and the company didn't do anything. Nobody did anything wrong. It just was. And I had all of this time and energy. And so I channeled that into YouTube. But I didn't think anyone would see that stuff for a long time. And then they did. And I think it's just a logarithm. But looking at, like, I think it's probably not that you haven't asked me for this. And so I don't know why I'm like, but I did see, I guess this is why.
Any advice, because your channel to me is like fireworks. I'm just like, oh, I want to be like her when I grow up. Yes, like I want to be on your level. So any advice I will take and soak up, because I really don't know where to go. Like, that's like my main thing.
Well, the reason I thought second channel is because if it is a case of being suppressed, which I think there's like an actual term for it, I don't know what it is, then if you created a second channel, that would let you break out of that, even if you did the same content. I don't know. So this is going to be, I'm going to I'm a weird talker, I guess. Sometimes I talk like in like trees with branches. So at work, a couple months before I got laid off, we took like this weird personality test. I don't remember what it was, but it like outlaid like strengths or whatever. And one of my strengths was like, one of my strongest strengths was that I was able to see how people are different and like what makes them special, which was weird to me because I feel like my strength is kind of, I see how people are the same and how that makes them beautiful. So when I like look at your channel, I see the same. Like when you share your stories and stuff, I see our similarities. Whereas we're vastly different, we are extraordinarily similar. And I feel like I see that more with most people. So even like with your YouTube channel, like where we're vastly different, I feel like we both lean into who we are and ourselves. So I don't feel like there's anything you could or should change with like your content. I think it's like the logarithm type situation. Which is literally just a matter of figuring out how you need to do like the tags and titles and things like that in order to flip it. But then you were also talking about like people being mean on your channel potentially. And I think that kind of comes between like the creative, like the videos that have gotten like astronomical views on your channel could attract a very broad spectrum of people, like nice and not nice people. Yeah. So I definitely see why that would be valid and maybe not. But I don't know. I don't understand why. I don't know who you were comparing yourself to, and you definitely don't need to tell me, but I've watched a few other people that were in the area and have similar or overlapping genres, and I don't understand. Like, so from an outward, and hopefully this feels good that like you don't understand and you feel that way, but as an outsider looking in, I also feel the way that you feel. Like, I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like your content, like I feel like, and maybe this is why it's hard for you too, because it sounds like when you say like, it makes me feel bad because I'm not getting views. So that could have all kinds of different takeaways that people, but what I hear more, it's kind of like what you said about your tattoos, that when you have a tattoo and you put it, like you work with someone to like come up with this creation and then you tattoo them, it's like your art. So you're sharing your art and they're taking it with them. It's kind of the same like with your videos, except, you know, this is going to sound so corny, but like, instead of like tattooing like somebody's body, you're kind of like tattooing like a place like in their heart. I don't know.
Yeah, I do what you're saying. Like I said, like, honestly, I was surprised. I was so shocked when you messaged me and you wanted to interview me, because I was like, oh my God, like I'm just little old me. Like I am nobody. And like even the other people you've interviewed, you know, they have such like a bigger following. And I'm like, oh, like that's what like made me nervous. I was like, I don't feel like I am like up on that level to be like on your channel or whatever. So I feel like super honored that you asked me to come on here. And it's really like a cool experience in general.
I think it's just so interesting though, because like you feel that way, but on the reverse side, like I feel like you're a real YouTuber because I've been watching you for so long. Like I don't feel like I do anything. I don't know if that makes any sense, but and then I don't like, for those of you listening, like I could really care less how much of an audience people have. Like as far as like what Yenna and I, so that's my workout buddy, if you don't know.
I'm up to date on you as of right now. Like, I've been doing my research.
We want to keep you company while you're working out, while you're cleaning, doing whatever. And Yenna and I want to talk to people who we find interesting and make our lives a little bit brighter, because you make my life a little bit brighter. So, and I just love your channel. I also love that you touched on your graffiti, because I wasn't sure how that came to be like in your house. I just know it's like really cool. I was telling my husband, I'm like, she's so cool. She like painted murals all around her whole house. And I'm like, so we moved here and I'm like looking, I'm so overwhelmed by everything. I'm just like, I feel like if you gave me a house and the house was full of a bunch of junk, like I would throw stuff away and then I would repurpose and like I would make it work. Like it would be awesome. It'd be an awesome house because I would be able to like, but coming into an empty house where we have to go buy stuff for it, I'm like, ugh, I can't do any of this. This is so overwhelming.
Like an empty space where there's so many possibilities. Like that's what I look forward to. Every time we move, I'm like, oh, a fresh start. Like I can have a whole different, a look, a theme or whatever. That's like my happy place. But the graffiti came because of the pandemic, because I had nowhere else to paint. I had painted all the canvases in my house and all the stores were closed. Like everything was closed. Like you couldn't go anywhere without like an appointment, or if you were going grocery shopping and only one person from the household could go. So I was like, well, these walls are white. And I have a bunch of black paint. So it just kind of happened and it gave me something to focus on other than any negativity. And now I'm like, okay, I painted over pretty much everything except for the studio, because yesterday was my last day officially tattooing. So now I have to work on painting my studio, which I put so much work into. Like even like the bricks in the studio are like, I took a sponge like you wash your car with and I made bricks. So I have to paint over all of that.
Oh goodness.
It's not going to be fun.
That's sad. It's going to be sad. Well, I mean, maybe therapeutic too, like really therapeutic, closing this chapter of your life, like clean slate. That's so interesting. How does your husband feel? Like, I know you guys are very different, as you've said. How does he feel like with the aesthetic at home? Like, I feel like my husband's so, I don't know. He says it's all me, but then really every time I do anything, he's like, I liked this. And I'm like, sit in your corner. You have your room.
I mean, so like when me and my husband were dating, I had this thing, like when I was living with my grandma, I didn't have a lot of money. So like my room, the shelves on my wall, I use like Vans shoe boxes and Converse boxes for shelves. So that was like my first kind of decorating thing. So my husband's like, well, I can do that with Bud Light boxes. And I was like, no. So I came over to his apartment and he literally just had like Bud Light boxes as shelves. I'm like, this does not look good. He's like, well, you put boxes on your wall. I was like, but I do it in a tasteful way. They're black and white. Like this is blue and green and it just doesn't match. Like he has good taste. He wouldn't do decorating like how I do, but he's pretty much into all the stuff that I'm into. So he's always just like, do you, every time we move somewhere, he's very hands-on with the fact that I need to feel like there's a vision for it. Cause I'm a very like visual person. So he's like, do you like it? Can you like paint here? Do you have enough room for like what you want to do? Like he's very caring in the fact of, because with his job, he might not be home all the time. So he wants me to feel, comfortable in a creative space. So he loves it. He's just like, puts it on his Instagram. Like, I'm like, you can give me some credit. Like, hey, my wife is really cool. Not just like, oh yeah, I picked this out, put it there, He's like, yeah, that was my idea. I'm like, whatever. You would never, because like his thing is shoes. Like I decorated his room so he could display his shoes. And I always made fun of them. I'm like, $200 or $300 on a pair of shoes. And they all kind of look the same to me. Like they're just shoes. But then I spend, like over $600 on a Chucky doll. And he's like, it's just a doll. It just sits on the shelf. I'm like, shut up. It's different. So he has his thing and I have my thing, but he trusts me like 100% when it comes to decorating. And like most of the graffiti I did in like our dining area was Dragon Ball Z because that's what he likes. So I try to like incorporate some stuff that he likes too. Like he enjoys Harry Potter, but not as much as me. He likes horror movies, but he's not very honed in. Like I'm Chucky everything. Like I just want it everywhere. He's like, how many more Chucky dolls do you need? I'm like, I have like 4 in my cart right now. So there's so many different kinds. So, I mean, he's very accepting and I'm lucky because in the past I've been with people who didn't let me be who I am. So when I met him, I was like, oh, like this is what it's like to be free. Like someone actually like likes my style. So it's really cool.
That is really cool. The whole time you were talking, like I was listening to what you're saying because I think that is so cool. But then I'm also like, you should have like a bed and breakfast. Like I feel like because I'm like, I think that your house is just like, especially this one in Germany is just so cool. Like you have like, it's just amazing. And you guys do live on post in Germany, right? Or am I making that up?
No, we live off post. So we live in a village, like maybe 20 minutes from the base.
Yeah, so. Like the house itself is just so cool. Because I remember like when you did your first tour, because it's like 3 stories, right?
It's like 5. Yeah. It's just
like 5 stories
upon layers upon layers. Yeah, because like the way this house is set up, like when you walk in, you have to walk down the stairs to get to the basement. Then you have to walk down more stairs to get to like the laundry room, and then you have to walk upstairs to get to like the living area. And then upstairs for the bedroom, and then up more stairs for like the 2 guest rooms. So it's a lot of stairs, which I love this house. And I'm very sad to leave this house because our last house in Fort Irwin was horrible because they catered to people that had kids. So if you have kids in your lower ranking, you get a nicer house because you need the space. Because me and my husband don't have a kid, we got stuck with 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and like the oldest part of Fort Irwin, and it was horrible. So like I got here and I was like, I can stretch like a butterfly. Like I have space. Like this is great. We finally get a nice house. So yeah, this house is definitely like my favorite out of everywhere that we've lived so far.
Oh, and you've decorated it so cool. But have you ever thought about doing something like that? Like tackling, like, I don't know, like I have like this whole weird vision for you. Like I'm like, like you can completely ignore everything I'm about to say, but I'm like, she could do like tattoo and then like have like just this bed and like, that's like all like House of Horrors type. I don't know. In my mind, it works.
It's funny because the movers came for like the pre-inspection like 2 days ago. And the guy, he's German, and he was just like, horror studio. And I was like, no, it's just my house, but like my vision, once my husband retires, I definitely want to open a studio. And like, I have a whole vision in my mind of what I want. Like, I don't know if you ever watched the Will Smith movie, 7 Pounds. Have you ever seen that movie?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So do you remember where he had the jellyfish in like the jellyfish container? It was like kind of like a cylinder container. It's
I'm gonna have to look it up.
Yeah, it's a very specific look I have in my mind. But in the movie, it's like a cylinder aquarium situation. And I just picture like 2 huge jellyfish cylinders by like, the front desk area, a bunch of art. Because I want to do tattoo removal and a tattoo studio. And then next door, I want to do a hookah lounge as well as the art like gallery. So that way, like you can get tattooed and then you can go smoke hookah and relax or whatever. So that's my vision. The bed and breakfast would be cool, but then I would just be like, I'm going to live here. Like, this is going to be my house. Like I would be like, I don't know if I trust people to like be around like collector's items and not like break them or try to steal them. Like I got trust issues. So that'd be cool. But if I ever tried to do that, I'd end up like, I'd be like, oh, I have a second house. We're just going to stay there on the weekend.
I love it. That's funny. Have you ever, so there's a YouTuber, and I think she even had like a show on Netflix. I've never watched her show on Netflix, but she has a YouTube channel, and then she has what is it called? Where you like pay, I don't know. I pay like $7 a month to have her videos. I don't know what that's called, but her name's Christine McConnell. The Curious Mind of Christine McConnell. I'm not sure. Her name's Christine McConnell. It's like
seen the YouTube or the thing on Netflix pop up, but I've never watched it.
I haven't watched a thing on Netflix, but her YouTube channel is awesome. She just bought like this old creepy house in upstate New York and is like redoing it. Not to be a bed and breakfast. It's just she's very artistic and like does a lot of. It's interesting because her house, she had a house in like somewhere in the woods in California, and it was very like cottagey, like 1950s, like very like prim and proper. And then like splashes of like, she calls her husband the captive, and like, he'll be in like scenes and stuff, but he's always like bound. Like,
I love that.
You should check her channel out on YouTube.
Yeah.
I
like it too.
It's pretty awesome. But let's see. There was a couple. Okay, so Switzerland. So you already touched on like binge eating, and is that something that you've all I feel like I'm like Switzerland binge eating. That doesn't sound connected, but I'll get there for those of you who listen to how maybe that might be connected. So with binge eating, is that something you've always kind of struggled with, or is that something that during the pandemic you started to struggle with? So
I will say that I've had body image issues ever since I was younger because my mom. So I'm half Korean, half white. My mom's Korean. Most Asian parents have a very kind of strict mindset of what they want their kids to look like, where they want them to work. It's very like a traditional Korean belief. And so she called me fat all the time. And like people remember my mom specifically like going with my friends to like a dressing room and her being like, why aren't you skinny like your friend? And I was not overweight when I was younger. I've just always had a big butt. And I struggle with IBS ever since I was very young. So I would vomit a lot from the IBS. So my cheeks would swell up really bad from that because it's just like basically a thing that happens when
Side
you,
effects.
yeah, side effect. That's the word I was looking for. But so I always had body image issues because of her. So I struggled mostly with yo-yo dieting for most of, I would say probably from 16, 17 till recently. The binge eating, I just was I felt empty. I felt like my grandma's passing was kind of like the tip of the iceberg that just made everything kind of downward spiral for me. So it was just, I felt so empty. And like how you said, it's like you're punishing yourself. But for me, it was like punishing myself, but also be like, well, you deserve it. It's okay. So it was kind of like a back and forth thing, like, oh, I hate myself and I just don't care anymore. But also, you had a rough day. It's okay. Just keep doing it. And it was really hard for like, I was kind of secretive about it, like I'd be getting dinner ready for me and my husband, and we'd like portion size for him and me, but I'd be eating a lot before I even went to the, living room to eat, because we like to like watch TV and, eat or whatever. So I was stuffing my face with food and then eating more. And then I was always just like, I felt like if I wasn't eating, I was thinking about my feelings. So I was just constantly like, always there was a bag of chips on the couch. I'm always eating chips. And then I'm like, I want something sweet. So it was a constant thing, especially when I got in like the really bad moods and where I was like, I can't deal with stress. So I would just eat. And I really was like, oh, this is not binge eating. It's okay. But then it got to the point where like just going up and down the stairs, like my heart was pounding so hard. And then I'd just be sitting on the couch, not doing anything. And my heart was pounding. I had high blood pressure. It was like hard for me to breathe. Like trips that we had went on before, to an outsider, they're like, oh, you look great, it's fine, but I was struggling. Like I couldn't go up castles. Like I had to stop. I was crying. I was vomiting because I was just so out of shape and just eating horrible. And so it really took me a minute to be like, okay, this is not normal. Like I don't need to keep eating to the point where I'm so uncomfortable. Like I feel like I'm going to burst. Just because I was like searching for that full kind of feeling of emptiness and, just depression and everything like that. So my main thing when I went to start with nutrition is finding out what my triggers were. And a lot of it had to do with caffeine. So I haven't had caffeine in 6 months because to me, like soda goes with fast food. And for me, if I go to a fast food place, I'm not just ordering one meal. Like I'm ordering a bunch of stuff so I can keep eating throughout the day. Like I'm not just having like a 9-piece. In Germany, it's a 9-piece instead of a 10-piece chicken nugget at McDonald's. So I'm not just ordering a 9-piece, I'm ordering the whole big box, and I'm getting McFlurries to put in the freezer for later. I was just so thinking about food 24/7. Like literally that's all I was thinking. Almost kind of like I'm going to distract myself with just food in general. So I don't have to think about my feelings. I don't have to deal with, the death of my grandma, all of that stuff. And so my nutritionist sat down with me and was like, what are your trigger foods? So I, told her most of it was fast food. And I didn't really realize that until we started writing down all the things that I wanted and that I liked and that kind of made me happy. And then trigger words like calorie counting, calories in general. That word is like it's kind of like someone punching me in the face. Yeah. Like I really don't like that word. And every time I've gone on diets, I've calorie counted. I've weighed my food. I just wanted like, okay, 30 days, I can lose this amount of weight. I'm going on a trip. I'm going to look great. And then I'm going to binge. And it was like a bad kind of back and forth. I would say it was kind of like a little bit of the binging before the pandemic, but I didn't realize I was really doing it. I was just kind of like, whatever, I'm sad, I'm going to eat. But it just kind of heightened and got even worse when I was alone and I just had too much time to think about things. So working with my nutritionist, I found out about intuitive eating, and it doesn't work out for everyone. Everyone's totally different. And it took about 2 months before I felt like I wasn't miserable all the time, because you just have to learn, like, you're eating to nourish your body. You're just, you're not eating just because a lot of people don't realize, like, bad foods give off serotonin because they have, different, like, crunchy, soft, there's different textures of like an Oreo or, different type of goodies that we really reach for at convenience stores or whatever. And you don't realize that your mind is getting the serotonin from all the little triggers in your mouth. You're not eating because, oh, my body needs nourishment so I can go run so that way I don't collapse. So I had to change my way of thinking. And there's a book that just kind of changed everything for me. It was a small little book. It is called Sugar Demons, I think. And I got it off of Amazon. And that book pretty much changed everything for me, because it's about a man who was addicted to sugar, and how you don't realize that going to, like, birthday parties or when you go on vacation, everything's surrounded by food. Like, ever since you were little, you're kind of trained that if it's your birthday, you get a cake. If it's, a holiday, you have a barbecue. Like, you're kind of, if you're sad and you're upset, your parents take you out for ice cream. So it's very much like your mind more, for me anyways, that I needed to change the way of thinking for food, that, okay, I just need this to be able to work out and to, keep going and to feel good. So 3 months was miserable, and learning, like, okay, I can eat breakfast and I'm full. Like, this is what full feels like. And I just need to stop. So learning my body and learning, okay, this is what full feels like. Just stop. Just don't do it anymore. If you have carbs, make sure you have a protein with it so you feel full longer. Because if you just eat empty carbs, you're going to be hungry and you're just going to keep eating. So for me, it was just a learning process, because some people just think, oh, it's a quick fix. You get on a diet and then you're fine, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore. Like, it's really like a mental thing, and as well as like educational to learn your body and what foods and things that you need, like nutrition wise, to make you feel better about yourself. Cause I just felt so uncomfortable in my skin, so gross, tired. Like, I was so tired, but I didn't realize, like, I was low on vitamin D. I needed vitamins, I was low on so many other vitamins as well, that really just kind of played factors into just me wanting to lay around and be lazy and not do anything. Cause I was just feeding my body, junk. So it reacted in that way and not giving me energy that I needed to, like, keep moving forward.
Did you get tested to see what vitamins you were deficient in? Is that how you knew?
Yeah. Cause that was one of the main things, because my IBS, honestly, has been very much more leveled out since I've seen my nutritionist, because mine is kind of attached to my emotions. So if I get too excited about a trip, or if I'm really stressed out, I will have an IBS attack, and I kind of expect that. But we needed to make sure it wasn't something else going on, like some other condition, if my thyroid was messed up. So we did so many labs for like the first 3 weeks to kind of really see what vitamins I needed to take, what I was lacking in, if I needed to get any surgeries or anything. And a lot of it was us testing, like, okay, these are your results. Now let's try these food options of what you like and what's also healthy, and see if that helps, like, your health in your stomach. And a lot of it did help, but it took a while for my body to, like, adjust. Like I was eating avocado. I love avocados. So I was eating avocado, egg toast every morning, which I still do, but I would love to have like a banana afterwards. But for my stomach, I can't mix those two. And it made me very, very sick. So I was super discouraged because it's like, I'm eating healthy. Why am I still being sick? And it just took a minute for my body to be like, look, you've been eating bad for X amount of years. Like it's going to take some time for your body to kind of change into a way of, okay, like this is healthy, nutritious things. I'm getting the vitamins, the nutrients that I need. And it's totally different from just like a lot of sugar, a lot of salt, just everything else that was not good for me. So it took, I would say like 3 months before my body actually kind of like gave me kind of a break. So it's definitely, it's hard. Like if you want like a healthier lifestyle, it's a forever thing. Like it's not just, a month and it's done, or a year or 2 years. It's like constant. If you want to keep a healthy feeling body, you have to keep at it. It's not just something that you can be like, oh, I'm good now. I'm just gonna, start over and eat whatever I want. Like you can still eat what you want. Just make sure your body's still getting the nutrition that it needs, so that way it doesn't like collapse and, go in the other direction.
What was that book you said? You said Sugar.
I think it's called Sugar Demons. I think.
Okay. I thought you said Doom, and so I'm like, Sugar Doom. Demons is close.
It's a blue book. The cover has like, I think it's like a spoon with sugar.
Yeah.
Yep. That's the book. That's the book that's literally changed everything for me, because the guy literally talks about his struggles, and I was highlighting everything because I love to highlight and like tab things when I'm reading them. And that book is so full of tabs and highlighter. I'm just like, yes, I agree. This is me right now. And that it changed everything. And I did a lot of journaling. Now I don't do it as much, because sometimes I feel like if I do journal, I need to just throw it away when I'm done, because then I don't want to like see everything. But when I started, I really needed to write down like what I was eating, so I could see like, okay, you've ate a lot today. You're fine. Like you're not starving. You're literally fine. You had 3 good meals. You had like your 2 fruit snacks or whatever. You're good. Like you're okay. But when I first started the journaling thing, I was very mean to myself, because it tells you like how you feel about yourself and your goals and, how you felt today. And I was very mean, like even thinking about the things that I was saying to myself was hard. But my nutritionist was like, would you say those things to your friend? Like, would you tell your friend those things? And I was like, no. She was like, well, you need to treat yourself the same exact way, because it's not good for you. And I felt like the behavioral health with nutrition was like the magic that I needed, because I just didn't need one or the other. Like I needed to deal with the trauma that I had went through as a younger child to really understand why I look at myself the way I do, and like the issues that I have as a person that make me revert to food and kind of torturing myself. So now that I'm done with trauma treatment, I finished it last week. So I feel like very refreshed and good. I'm like, oh, I made it through it. It was so hard. It was like one of the hardest things I've ever done. But I hate that there's such a stigma around like getting help. Like there's nothing wrong with getting help. It's not embarrassing to say you go to therapy. I'm just like, I'm bougie. I need a nutritionist. I need a therapist. There's nothing wrong with treating yourself. Some people do the Tom bags. I just need to talk about my feelings and, everything else. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can be bougie in a good way. And, for people that listen to this, I hope if they're scared that people are going to judge them about, going and seeking help, there's literally nothing wrong with it. And nobody's going to look at you weird for going And if they do, they probably need help as well. You know, like it's not something that is, I hate that it's such a negative stigma around it. Like it's the best thing that I could have ever done. And like, if anyone's struggling with stuff like that, I feel like you do need to talk about it to like understand why you are the way you are.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't, like, I think too, it's so interesting to talk about this specifically, because I didn't know until you said that. So like, I messaged her to be on the podcast, and I didn't even intend, like, I didn't know binge eating was something that she had ever experienced, and then she messaged and I was like, oh, okay, well, that's different. But it's not because so my sister is generally right around a very healthy weight, but she also, and I hope it's okay that I'm saying this, I think it is. She also has a binge eating tendencies. She just kind of it's different. It's different for every person. But I say this because it's so important not to like presuppose, or like, everyone goes through things. It's most of the issues that we individually face are so common. So many people go through that. I wouldn't have guessed. And I think too, because you were going through therapy and you were working on yourself, I like what I had been seeing like on Instagram and stuff was just you kind of becoming more powerful and into your own, like with what you were posting. And I knew like fitness had been a recent endeavor of yours because, and this is where earlier I was like, Switzerland, binge eating, because, because you posted a picture of you hiking in Switzerland, and you were like, you had been working out for that trip to be where you were. And that was really powerful. And that was the connection there.
You got to it.
It's 5 million hours later. Like, but how was Switzerland? You said it was a very powerful place to visit.
So it's expensive. It's very expensive. So that trip was hard for me because this was my first trip since like I have been getting help with the binge eating that I've been working on myself. So I was stressed about the food because I knew being on vacation, I was going to eat what I wanted to eat because I deserved it and it was okay. So I hadn't had like McDonald's in 6 months, but we have a thing. Every country we go to McDonald's. And I know that might sound really weird, but like, it's just every McDonald's has different stuff, you know? So that's like one thing we can try in every country to see the difference. So I was like, oh man, I'm going to have McDonald's for the first time. Like, I was like, I have to learn to like try to enjoy this trip because like the first meal we ate, I was so stressed about, oh my God, this is not good. This is not good. I don't even remember eating the food. Like it was such a mental thing to where I'm like, okay, I have to remind myself, this is okay. Enjoy the food. Like you're eating it, you might as well enjoy it. So, but we went to McDonald's. It was $40 for 2 people. And that was just one regular meal with water. And I was just like, oh, this is like really expensive. And then every dinner we had, like if you want like a nice dinner, you're spending anywhere from like 120 to 250 for dinner. And it's expensive. So definitely if you go, save up, I would say, but it's worth it because we didn't have much in mind. Like the Gelmerbahn was a bucket list thing of mine. So it looks like a roller coaster, but it does not go fast. But it's like, it's called a funicular. So it takes you up the mountain backwards and it's on a very, very steep incline. It's one of the most steep inclines, in the world. It was like the top 1 or 2 and then they made other ones. But this one in particular, I was like, I'm going here. I need to see this. So, we went there and just the views of everything is like surreal. It's different because like the mountains, the color of like the water out there, all the people are super friendly. And it's such a good feeling. Like the air is different. I don't know, like different places you visit, the air is different. Like Egypt, the air is a little thick, a little harder to breathe, you know? But Switzerland, like I could breathe well. We went into the lake, which I'm so sad. Like, I don't know if you've been watching the news, but everything's been really flooded. Switzerland and like other parts of Germany. So it's sad that where we were is like super flooded right now. But the lake we did go swim in, it was freezing cold. Like it was so cold. But I was like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. We both went swimming and we both felt like rejuvenated afterwards, like, some people do those ice baths and like ice treatments for their bodies, to help their muscles. And I was like, I can breathe, I can run. Like, you haven't like shaved your legs in a long time and then you shave your legs and you're like, I can run like real fast. That's how I felt. I was like, I am free. I'm great. So I don't know, something about being on that mountain and just being able to hike and not huff and puff, because when we went to Spain, that's like almost 2 years before this Switzerland trip. I had to stop constantly. Like we were riding bikes and I couldn't even make it up the hill. I was just breathing hard. I was crying because I was so frustrated. And it was miserable and embarrassing because my husband's a very fit individual. He takes very good care of himself. So for his wife to be, crying because she can't make it up the hill was very embarrassing to me. Like I was mortified. I was like, wow, like I literally can't physically make it up this hill just to go when I'm the one who planned this, So for me, working out and not only, to be happy with what I see in the mirror, which is still a struggle for me. I wanted to be able to have the endurance to be able to do things. Like it was more about strength for me this time than just vanity. Like, of course, everybody wants to look good, but my thing was like, I need to make sure that I can go up this mountain, I can go down the mountain, go back up again. And I'm not, crying that, oh, we need to stop, or, oh God, like just being so upset. So to be able to hike, and my husband was so patient. He was like, when you want to turn back around, let me know. We don't have to keep going. And I was like, all right, it's time for us to go back up the mountain. That's when it was a little hard. I had those little sticks to like help me like catapult myself up. So, but it was great. I loved that trip. It was amazing. And I needed that, especially because I had been working so hard for like 2 months straight. I was working like 12 hours every single day, 6 days a week. So I just needed a time for me to just kind of unwind and just enjoy doing nothing pretty much.
I love it. That's if we didn't have our 2 dogs, because we have 2 dogs, I would I'd be pushing and be like, let's get stationed abroad somewhere. But even just like Hawaii. So with my husband's MOS, there's only a few places that will get stationed: Hawaii, DC, or Fort Bragg. So we chose Fort Bragg. The most boring of the options. But I for a little while I was like Hawaii, but then I'm like, the idea of flying Julio and Chipper, because they're big dogs. So you have 2 German Shepherds. It just petrifies me. And you have a puppy too.
Yeah, he's big. He's the whole, that's what I'm dealing with now is the shipping. So before, Patriot Express shipped like our dog from the States to Germany without a problem. It wasn't very expensive. It was, in the hundreds of dollars, which compared to what we have to pay now is just astronomical. But Patriot Express is not doing that for animals anymore. So you're on your own to ship your dogs with you when you PCS. So we're having to spend close to $3,000 to ship our dog back. And he has high anxiety, which I cannot give him any of his tranquilizers or medicine when he's flying because it's not safe for the dogs. Plus, we're flying in August. So that's like a heat embargo situation because that's one of the hottest months. So we can't even fly into Florida because they have a restriction on the heat limit. So we have to fly somewhere else and then drive to where we're going, like back home into Florida. So it's just, I understand. We wanted to go to Hawaii too. And I was like, I don't know, because I know like you have to have your dog quarantine because they don't have like rabies on the island and stuff. And I'm like, Thor would literally die of depression if we had to like let him quarantine for a couple weeks. So like, I understand. Puppies are your life.
They
so
are.
you have to make decisions around
They
that,
are.
and it's fine. He's a little older and he's like really chill in certain situations, but as soon as you put him in a car or a plane, he's not having it. So that's my biggest stress for the whole move. I don't care about anything else. Like, I hope my things don't get broken, but I just need my fur child to make it, and without any stress and covered in poop or anything like that. Like, that's the biggest thing I'm concerned about.
I'll be sending positive vibes and that goes smoothly. I can't imagine. Like, that's why, like, that's so stressful for me. I was like, Hawaii needs to be last on the list. Hawaii needs to be last. And then secretly I was like, well, it's last on the list, but if we get sent there, it's fake. And so then I was kind of like, maybe we'll still get sent there, but I'm still, a good dog mom because we put it last.
Yeah. I can feel that. I mean, it's okay. You made adult decisions and you got a beautiful home. So it's worth it. It's totally worth it.
We're excited. No, we get so everywhere we've lived, it's for dogs. When I'm like looking at houses, I'm like, okay, does this house have the yard that the dogs need? Does this have the space that we need with the dogs? Like, everything's kind of centered around them, little furry monsters. You had a caption. It was a caption on one of your videos, not videos, Instagram photos or something that I saw one time. And it's like, I'm actually weirder than you think. That was like a caption that you put. And I loved it because I think it's also the opposite. Like, I think no matter how different, or I think at the end of the day, like, there's so many commonalities that people share that we think that we don't. We think we're the only ones, or at least I think, like, often I'll be like, I'm the only one with this struggle. I'm the only one who like struggles with food in this way. I'm the only one who struggles with like this negative self-talk. But I think the more we talk about it and share, the more it allows other people to feel comfortable in their skin and share. And I hope that people have enjoyed getting to learn about you and your story. I love you, which is weird, and I love your story.
Okay.
And I think that you were just fantastic. I hope that everybody goes and checks out your channel, your Instagram. Is there anything that you would like to promote? You probably don't, but if you do you have a website for your business for when you move?
I mean, I have a Facebook business page for my tattoos, it's a really long name, but it's like Nocturnally Tattoos, and then it's Tattoo Barbie. That's just keeping up to date on my tattoos. My Instagram is tattoo_Barbie_, and then my YouTube channel is just Tattoo Barbie, but I don't have like a website. It's just the Facebook page. And then I guess it was solely made for, Germany, but I'm just going to kind of keep it up to date. So that way, when I'm in Florida, wherever I'm tattooing, because a lot of people are PCSing right now. So a lot of people have already said that they would drive a few hours to get tattooed. So I'm hoping that people in Florida will find me and that way I can have a clientele and then hopefully open up my own studio, because I might have to start at another studio just till I get my footing, and then, be able to have my own, because I like working for myself, I like being my own boss. So I really hope that gets to happen when I go to Florida.
I hope that happens too. I hope that happens sooner than you think. Thank you so much for being on my podcast. I have really loved having your conversation and all of the little places that we've gone. We've gone together.
I mean, hey, it's been a good roller coaster adventure. I enjoyed this entire thing. It's so much fun.
Good. I'm so glad. Well, hopefully we will see you soon. Thank you so much for watching today's podcast episode. It is available on Spotify and Apple. Thank you, Tattoo Barbie, for being on the podcast. The original reason I asked you to be on was because you inspire me to lean into who I am. You're such a bright light, and I'm so grateful to know you. Thank you for being brave and sharing your story on how you overcame binge eating disorder. And for those of you listening, and Tattoo Barbie, I love you guys so much. I hope you have the best week, and I will see you soon.